What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We're taking a look at XDefiant here on Windows 11 for the Steam Deck. I'm using Handheld Companion for the controller emulation and MSI Afterburner for the overlay. I was really just wanting to see if this game would run at all or playable, and I was actually pleasantly surprised. Now, we're going to start off in 720p here with pretty much all low settings or options turned off and no VSync to start with to see what we're working with for our frame rate. And the first map I jumped into, I was quite surprised by performance, but as I played different maps throughout the day, obviously performance varies a lot depending on the map and the mode that you're playing, even with these settings. 720p is definitely going to be the way to go with this game, and probably a 60 FPS cap, which I'll show you as well. And we're going to take a look at 1080p also. But initially, just playing through this map, I was absolutely blown away by the smoother frame times, how snappy this felt, and the higher frame rates we were able to get at 720p on this map. But this is inside, and I did expect this to probably be the best case scenario, and it does turn out to be that way as you play other maps and modes, and you dip down into the 50s quite often when you were at 720p. So let's go ahead and switch over to another map where I can show you an example of that, even at 720, where we'll be dipping. So this is a different mode over here, and we're outside, of course, and it takes a lot more to run this. We're using more VRAM as well, and you'll go down into the 60s and often 50s on different maps like this and different modes. So that's why I think just doing a 60 FPS cap's probably going to be the way to go, and 1080p is probably just not going to be something you want to try to pull off, which is unfortunate if you're going to try to play docked on a monitor, as it would look better than 720 or 800p. Now let's go ahead and take a look at 720p cap 60 here, which will give us a little bit more headroom, some smoother frame times, and we'll be working with that 60 FPS mostly. But you're going to get those dips down into the 50s, and that's just going to happen depending on the map or the modes, even at 720p. Luckily, frame times don't spike too bad and performance stays fine, so even during those little dips, it doesn't really affect aiming and gameplay much, but it works pretty well. Now, going and taking a look at that map we started with, but 1080p this time, we're going to be instantly down in the 50s, and we're going to struggle to really get up there to the kind of frame rates we were experiencing at 800p or 720p in the game before. And that's to be expected. This machine, the Steam Deck, isn't really made to play games like this at 1080p at higher frame rates, but it did run pretty well. We're also going to take a look at the other map that we were looking at 720p that was hitting our performance as well, and you're going to see why I don't really recommend too much 1080p when it comes to this game if you're wanting to be at all competitive. So even though this map was fine, if we jump over to the other map and mode that we were on at 720 here, you'll see we start off in the 40s already. Frame times are getting a little wacky, and aiming is difficult, and it just doesn't feel like the best experience if you're going to try to play a competitive shooter like this. It was already rough enough with the controls here, but adding the additional frame time issues and lower frame rates, it's definitely more of an issue. So I just think I'd stay away from 1080p here, stick with 720, and locking that down to 60 like I'm showing here. I think this is just the best case scenario, keeping your settings down pretty low there like I have. Go 720p, lock it to 60 FPS, and whether you're docked or handheld, I think you'll get a decent experience on XDefiant that feels pretty good to play. It's snappy, it's not stuttery, and I didn't really have any problems with this setup. But anyways, guys, as always, thanks a lot for coming to check out the video. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.